So here we are with Colin Bannon of BT, and we're going to talk about the impact of AI on the middle mile, on NAS as well. And so, Colin, what are you seeing with regard to AI workloads on the middle mile? Are we actually driving a lot more traffic? Are we building out middle mile fiber circuits just because of AI? And what's the impact that AI has, both from a training and inference standpoint?
It's a super interesting question.
Yep.
I'm sure we'll be back together talking about this a couple of times.
Yep.
It is moving faster than ever before. I mean, it is unprecedented about the amount of money that's been thrown at this,
Yep.
the amount of development, but also the amount of uncertainty. So let me tell you what we know.
You're seeing, yeah.
I'll tell you the certainty, the known knowns, and then we'll maybe talk about some of the unknown. The known unknowns.
Yeah, and then eventually
and I don't know,
the unknown unknowns.
Yeah, well, in the balance of time, we can talk about the unknown and unknowns in the future. But look, bottom line, we're getting a really good view inside the data centers that are doing the training now.
Yes. Yep.
And you see the ring on InfiniBand getting a little bit smaller, and the Ultra Ethernet partners who are developing that really making a strong case for a ROI on there. And look, there are new data centers with GPUs popping up all around the world, but particularly in the US, that are doing a very good job of melting a hole in the ground. Right? They are running super hot right now, and the pace of innovation is incredible, and the use cases are developing. But they have a good idea of what's happening inside the data center in terms of what the network traffic looks like and how it's behaving. So at a switching level, it's relatively deterministic, and they have a view.
Right.
Now, as we move to intra-data center,
yes,
I think they also have a pretty good view of what that is starting to look like.
Okay.
And that is some of our colleagues in the industry, in the US in particular, are making some great ingrounds.
Right.
But that's going to drive some intra-campus fiber build-out.
Yep, for sure. You're building a data center. You need fiber to the data center.
There'll be a lot of waves.
That's for sure.
Exactly. There's going to be a lot of waves out there coming down the pipe. And I think there's some interesting conversations around concentration and risk.
Yes.
The size of those cables and how long it takes to resplice them.
Yep.
And I think in Europe, there'll be views on maybe a more distributed micro mesh.
Sure.
Because there'll be different engineering challenges around meet me rooms and cabs and the size of those cabs versus these intra-data center, the curvature and how much you can bend them. So I think you might see, other than full greenfield builds, if there's leveraging existing infrastructure, there'll be slightly different engineering approaches perhaps in Europe than there will be in the US, but they also have a view. And that's what we know. Where it becomes the sort of both the gold rush, but also the Wild West is, so what is the implications to the wide area network and local area networks of AI?
Right.
And here's a few things that we know right now. One is that AI is becoming more and more distributed. You have the endpoint devices with things like Apple Intelligence, where you have inference models and that'll be running on the devices themselves.
Device, correct.
That'll have an impact to the network from that perspective. What happens if customers want to start to curate their own data sets, the private data sets? Is that going to increase the polling? Where it becomes very interesting is sort of in the middle mile, though.
Yes.
Is modeling the flows.
Right.
So we already knew with cloud and modern DevOps, a lot of our customers were hybrid. So you had very distributed workloads already.
Correct.
And rather complex flows. You might have one floor in your data center with a mainframe and then middleware and then a modern microservices front end. You might have some partner stuff coming in via private compute. So this is just going to take that even further. And even the hyperscalers who are building this and the chipset makers, they can't yet model this because it has to do with the use cases. But what we do know is that most of the AI so far has not been that latency sensitive.
That's correct.
Right?
The vast majority.
Exactly. However, as you start to get to agentic or start to have voice control, latency becomes much more important, which then drives the nodality or the topology of where the inference processing will be done closer to the edge, closer to the customers, deeper in the network. So you will have multiple layers. And what I'm spending a lot of time up at night thinking about is, what does that actually modeling looks like? So it's a super exciting period of time. And we're all on this journey together to try to model that. If you think about it, I don't think the models are going to end up being small, medium, large. I think they'll be more horizontal against how people are using these use cases. And the main focus that I think we should, as an industry, be working together is really pushing forward on what do those use cases look like, and what are the implications on the network.
Yeah, and I think that's very important, because as you point out, it's unclear, and we talk a lot of different people, the hyperscalers and the like, and you're right. The ones who pretend to know are the ones who actually don't know, right? Because there is, I mean, the models are evolving every week, and you know what's the nature of the model, what's the modality of the model, as you point out, and that all changes. And what's the training workflow look like? You know, are you going to train in a central location? After you've moved 200 terabytes for training, are you going to move it out? Or federated training, as you pointed out? You know, are you do federated training because I can't have all the power in one place? You know, it's you know, like especially in Europe, you're not going to put 100,000 GPUs, you know, in every country, right? That's not an easy thing to do. And so the data's got to move around. But what's clear, the last mile right now isn't really impacted, because ChatGPT loses to Netflix and YouTube and TikTok, right? Those have a lot more impact on the last mile so far. Right? But could change.
So what is the modern AI equivalent to caching deeper in the network that we solved as service providers, or to multicast? What will be the engineering solutions to the new demands on the networks that AI will be, and is distributed inference on the edge, SLMs, sovereign instances of these that'll be going on around regulatory aspects. You know, like you said, it is an exciting period. It's a gold rush, definitely, for sure. But as people work to find the ROI, there's an incredible amount of capex and disruption being put in. And the one thing that probably we as an industry need to work on is the network is still a prerequisite for the AI to actually work.
For sure. The network is still important at the end of the day. Right? Very good.
Right,
Colin, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Cheers.
Thank you.